The biggest lie in construction? That's the lone wolf builder wins. If you're trying to scale in isolation, you aren't building a business. You're building a bottleneck. That mindset is exactly why you're stuck competing on price in the bidding war while other builders are landing negotiated work with zero competition. Today, Chloe May Lamenzo joins us to flip the script. We're talking about the connector strategy, how to stop operating in a silo and start treating your network like an operational asset. She reveals the exact system for monetizing your relationships, setting up structured referral engines with architects and vendors so high margin leads come to you automatically. It's time to stop bidding against strangers and start building with partners. Welcome to Beyond the Bid. You're listening to Beyond the Bid, the show by Go First, where we share the systems, strategies, and practical AI for builders. Keep listening to learn how to win more of the right projects, boost profitability, and scale beyond the bid. All right, and we're back. Thanks so much for tuning in. Today, as promised, we have Chloe May Lamenzo. I always forget it. Golden Nova Agency. Yeah, thanks so much for joining us today, Chloe. Really appreciate you being on here even with all the tech difficulties that we've been having.
In construction, you gotta know how to persevere, right?
That's right. It is just the name of the game nowadays.
Thanks for having me up. I've been excited for a couple of weeks, so appreciate it.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? And I actually forgot to hit the little the button to make it look fancy. But yeah, stoked that you can make it. So today we're basically going to be talking all about the power of relationships and networking in construction. And just from, our little chat off camera, I know you are basically a master networker when it comes to just utilizing everyone not even utilizing, that's not the right word, but just maximizing your relationships to understand what's going on and, just to learn about all your connections.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I don't think utilizing is the wrong word per se. I mean, you can use a lot of words. I was going to say delegating, connecting. I mean, there's a lot of choices there, but I truly stand on that relationships are the key to any business's success. I mean, it doesn't really matter the industry. We happen to be maybe talking about construction here, but that I found that in a short amount of time, I've been able to leverage my career and excel very quickly. And simply to me, because I did study psychology for 6 years, so that helps. But you don't need that. I mean, you can really watch YouTube videos. I mean, there's so many different ways to kind of develop your interpersonal skills very quickly in my.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, even though, computers are slowly taking over more and more things. Like I was just playing around with Gemini, Google's new one today, but it's still a human to human. Like you can't really sell anything nowadays without a human in the loop in some capacity.
Yes. Yeah, there's even some interesting like marketing campaigns that have come out recently with different companies. I actually saw it's like the brand that does the little, what do they call it? You know the when you take a picture and it like prints it out.
Yeah.
Polaroids. They were doing a campaign recently that was like vetoing AI. So it's kind of interesting to see how some companies are actually getting a little bit more public about the anti-AI. But either way, I think the relationship between the two, I mean, especially in the construction world for me, like I mean, just the foundation is relationships. And then on top of that, like when you get more in depth about like systems, of course, AI for automations, certain internal systems, it's like game changing. But at the end of the day, like if you don't have those relationships established, you don't even really need the AI because that's the foundation. And I really like if I was to like come up with like a little motto, I'd be like relationships are the foundation of a construction businesses, a construction industry in general.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. It's, you really can build anything solid without a good relationship, whether you're a PM working with a bunch of subs or, the owner rep and the PMs. Everything is built off of good communication and really good trust or rapport in your relationship. Without that, well, you're probably going to have some bad times on your hands.
Yeah. Yes. And it depends what your focus is, but to me, I really liked the company that I worked with because we prioritize having client communication, and it's like again, like word of mouth was one of the best marketing strategies to date. Like it's not, I mean, you can do all the, online campaigns, you can do all that stuff, and it is also, you want to diversify obviously, but I think at the end of the day, if you have a positive experience with a contractor, you're going to go tell other people and you're going to recommend. And that just stems from how are you communicating through the entire project. I found that the beginning and the end are very, very critical because they kind of stand out to people. Even the end, I would say, is the most important in terms of how you leave a project. But everything in between, obviously, it's every day I found, as I was one of the main communicators in the company I worked with, but with our clients. And it's like every day you have an opportunity to build that relationship in a positive way. And so that's really how I did it in terms of quick response times. I mean, there's all these little details, but yeah.
So, two questions. One is, how did you get in? I mean, everybody has a different story. How did you get into construction? Like, you said 6 years of psychology, environmental sciences. Like, you have such a vast background. Construction is so specific too.
Right. Yeah, it's a great question. Truthfully, it's a little bit of a funny story. I graduated college, played professional soccer to add to my vast background.
Yeah.
And then I was working as a server for a little bit after I played pro, thinking I was going to go and get another pro contract. But then I ended up deciding to pivot. And one of the tables that I was serving was a construction. They were having kind of like a celebratory dinner. They were spending a lot of money. And I remember just saying at the end, like jokingly, I was like, oh, I hope to be like you guys one day. Because I was not satisfied in the restaurant industry. It was just kind of like, that transition career as I was figuring out my next step. And one of the guys ended up staying behind and they were like, I noticed your attention to detail, your communication. Like, have you ever thought about working in construction? And I was like, no. Like, I was like building stuff. So that's honestly what I said. And he was like, no, you don't have to building stuff. You just have to talk. And I was like, I love talking. Like, let's meet. So the next week we met and I was basically hired on the spot. That was a commission sales job. So I was going to different leads. So for the first like 8 months of my construction career, I was actually just learning to be on the sales side. But if the products I did sell, I was actually a project manager, which is a little bit crazy. Like most construction companies, obviously they'll only hire a project manager, quote unquote, with like years of experience. But I was working with people that had a bunch more experience. So I was kind of shadowing in a sense. But I really just got thrown into it and I learned super quickly and I loved it. Like it's challenging, obviously, but I had loved HGTV, funny enough, when I was a kid. That was my favorite show. And so it kind of just like clicked in my head because I was like, I thought about going into architecture. I thought about going into interior design, but I never went that route. And so it kind of just full circled. And then I got another job where I was a logistics manager and that I've been at for like over a year. I just recently left, but it was just, I naturally was passionate about it. And I love high pressure situations. So construction is perfect if you like a challenge.
That's right. It absolutely is that. Challenges on all. That's pretty cool, though. It seems like fate or destiny or whatever you want to call it was just like, okay, even though, this is for you, even though, it's not.
That's what it felt like. Yeah. And it just clicked. And then actually kind of fun fact is I'm actually part of the Professional Women in Construction Committee. It just formed a year ago. And they wrote, like, there's a children's book somebody wrote, and they just partnered with Girl Scouts. And so they're looking to integrate, like, a lot of different programs into schools to get more younger girls aware of it. Because especially we're at a shortage of workers in the construction industry. And so, but we're also not tapped into generally, we're not tapped into women at all. And I stumbled upon it, but there's so few women in the industry still that I think it's really cool to start, if I knew about it when I was younger, I probably would have wanted to learn about it, whether it was like being a finished carpenter or being on the back end, on the admin side, like whatever it is, like there's a space for women in the industry 100%. It's just the world's still kind of, shifting.
That's amazing. I'm so happy to hear that things like that are coming back around.
Yeah.
I mean, it's terrible to me that, like so many just home ec and wood shop and all those classes and like applicable life skills have been kind of stripped out of, well, our kind of crappy education system as it is. But so that's really cool to hear that organizations like the one that you're part of are really bringing that resurgence back.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I feel excited about it. And I know we can make a difference. I mean, we're already making a difference. So it's just like step by step. It's only a year. We're going to year 2. So already what's happening, you just brick by brick for a construction.
Oh, totally. So for let's see, like a lot of the audience right now, I would say this high level concept of like trust and rapport, and you should get your clients to trust you, and that's how to win just high value projects. But like, where do you start doing that? How do you actually like live that on a day-to-day basis?
No, that's a great question. So I would start by saying that we had speaking on the company that I just left, because that's where the bulk of my experience came from, was we actually partnered. We didn't have any in-house designers. So we were a design and build construction company, but we wanted to work with the best designers. So we actually helped build. We had a partnership with a designer. We helped build her showroom, and then we had an office in the back, and then we had a beautiful conference room. And so a big part of our sales process, which we found to be extremely successful, was bringing people into that beautiful environment and really having like exceptional, I'd say, working relationship with our main designer. We still work with other designers periodically, of course, but she was our go-to person pretty much. So that's where it started in terms of building that trust and relationship, especially, I mean, this is science, but it's scientifically said it's easier to trust women. So when we bring, I was the first woman hired into the company I worked with. So we were a team of 10 and I was the only woman. And then I was really predominantly like the relationship person. Like if there was troubles going on in the field internally or with subs or whatever, I found that this wasn't necessarily part of my job description as a logistics manager, but I found that I did a lot of
Mitigation.
let's just say.
Yeah.
And then with the designers as well, that was just kind of like the cherry on top because they were brought in to help with the sales process as well. And we were kind of like hand in hand through that. And that was a game changer that I don't know how many construction companies do. And I think that was really powerful. And then throughout it, we do another one that I think stood out is we did daily logs. So that was something that was in my part of my job description as well, where you can still hear me, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Make sure. So we would every day, I would actually meet with the project managers. At the end of the day, we would do recap, make sure we had, everything was set up for the next day. I would get daily reports from all of our in-house. We had about 7 in-house guys. So I had like a template I would send out. Then I would take certain notes. We were actually just transitioned over to recording all of our daily report or daily end of day reports on artifacts. So then that's utilizing the AI tool where instead of me hand typing everything, I was able to get everything transcribed in artifact. Then I was able to produce a daily report. And then all I had to do was on our CRM, which we had just transitioned over to JobTread. We had been using Builder Trend before, where I was able to literally just make sure I was kind of leading the meeting. So I would ask certain questions, make sure everything was organized, and then boom, it wasn't actually very much manual labor because we had the AI system just plug in. I had a template I would plug into ChatGPT, take the artifact summary, and boom, had that daily report. So imagine as a homeowner, you're spending, sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars on this project, very emotional. People are coming into your house, right? And then instead of just wondering what's going on, you're literally able to, what's the progress today? Or, I saw something looks like it didn't really get done. We're telling people, okay, are we on track? What's on course? What's off course? So between introductory phase of the sales process and also those here, like literally daily updates, that to me was one of the most powerful things in building relationships to the whole project.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, just adding as many like high value touch points as you can.
Exactly.
Because I would say that for anybody who's hired a contractor in the past, that's probably one of your biggest headaches is saying, hey, I paid you all this money. Why am I not getting an update on the project?
Yes. And even though it's on, contractor side, it's like you want to just be like, just trust me, like if you're a good guy, obviously, you're like, we got it. We got it handled. This is our profession. But the truth of the matter is the industry it doesn't have a high reputation. And so it's like, you have to look at that for what it honestly is. And how can you create a truly enjoy as much as possible, because it still can, I think it's unavoidable to have some stressing instruction, but like as much as possible, how can you think about the client journey from start to finish? And I do really recommend for companies to think about that and to map out, like, I mean, now we have AI tools, so you can literally talk with ChatGPT even about your client journey and like what your, whatever your specific projects are, your niches, or, how your current company functions. And you can hash that out to be like, what do you want your client to feel throughout the project or at the end? We always say our goal is for the client to invite us to the cookout or the picnic at the end of the party.
Yeah, I love that. I was talking to a client yesterday who he's using AI obviously and had this really cool idea, which is any new project he starts with a client, he actually has ChatGPT act as them, meaning he takes all the transcripts, plugs it in, and then even has chat like do like a disk analysis for the client. So it's like, okay, if this is my standard process, how are they going to react if I don't do X, Y, or Z?
Wow.
And I was like,
So is that like you're taking like almost like a client profile kind of?
yeah, exactly. And so then you're just to like make sure that, that the project kind of hits their expectations, or even better, like the potential designs kind of fit what they're looking for too.
Nice. Yeah. No, that's fantastic. Yeah, I was gonna say on that note, like one question that I think is really there's a fine line between this, because I do think it's important for businesses to set boundaries in terms of I'm kind of getting at like how you communicate with your clients. Because there's obviously, so if you have a CRM, you have like, let's just say, for example, job tread, then you have text option, then you have email option. But then I come back to that, we're a service industry. So we always had group chats on text with every single client. And we found like, because we worked with so many different generations or different ages, I mean, not so many, it was just more so older people and then sometimes a few younger people. But the older generation, we found that they didn't really like going through the CRM.
Yeah.
And so we always had that. But then I had some people that were like, we really like email. So it's like, okay, figure out early on what the communication preferences are, because that also can be such a game changer in terms of like sometimes people, you could just assume they're getting them and they're like, oh, I don't even, check my email, or I don't check whatever messaging platform you're using. So that's like a key point too.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's almost like a field that you should have in your CRM, which is like, your preferred method of communication or something.
Yes. We would do part of our process. We had pretty elaborate like process leading up to even before we started production. So we had something called a pre-production meeting, which is exactly what you're saying. We had a preset of questions, and it was a document that we would create. And, so it was boring stuff like, where's the porta potty going? Dumpster, like, logistical things for the most part, but then also included some things like communication preferences and that type of thing.
Oh, sure. I mean, things like that, though, are so valuable for the long haul of the project, because it's things that somebody didn't think about. And then, shit literally hit the fan. And then it's like, okay, next time I know I have to like map out where the porta potty is going, or the dumpster, or
No, it's 100%. It's a game changer. And that I think we can really connect back to, if we're looking at a $5 million, the difference between a $1.5, $3 million company versus a $5 or $8 million company. And I always say that if you can get to 3 million, you can get to 5 million, you can get to 8 million. Like in that window of like money right there is like, it's really just your baseline of systems, right? So, and then at that point, maybe you have to hire a new product manager or whatever, right?
yeah.
But yeah, that to me is because once you get really into the deep end of the production phase, it's like when you're thinking about, I got to call this inspection this day, and we're, when all the logistical fun stuff starts what's the word I'm looking for, like starts picking up, then you're not wanting to think about, like, sometimes you're just like, oh, like what did they say about how they're like, I remember the neighbor said they can't park cars in this one spot. Like, you don't want to try to keep all that stuff in your head. So having those systems early on is such a relief, because you're like, okay, I just have to go to that one document. Everybody knows where to access that one document. And so that's also like that internal piece is like so key, that when I came into the company that I worked with, it was a disaster. I'm not going to beat around the bush.
Yeah.
So even just like internally, that's another thing I really like to focus on in terms of relationships. There is the client relationships, but there's also your internal team dynamic. Obviously, it depends on the structure of each company. Some people use more subcontractors, some people have in-house or a combination. But like there was like people did not feel comfortable asking questions in terms of our in-house handyman and in-house, we have finish carpenters all and all the other specialties.
Mhm.
So that was one of the first things that I like targeted was when I came in to fix was like, how can we create a communication flow where people feel comfortable? Because it was creating so many inefficiencies in the day to day. Like it was crazy. So just with targeting that one thing and it cost zero money, that's another thing I like to focus on is like when it comes to, scaling your business, what can you target that costs no money? Before you go into doing all the fancy tools and investing in this, that, and the other, like those can be important as well. But like start with a thing that you can just do like without any, investment, right?
Right.
Financial investment.
Absolutely. I mean, that is such a really good piece of advice because nowadays, I mean, there's so many free tools out there. There's even tools that are free that will help you diagnose and pinpoint exactly what that is. Whether that's like, oh, add a FAQ to your website. That you're already paying for your website. You might as well get found on when somebody searches design builder on me, for near me on ChatGPT or whatever.
That's a good point. Yeah. And I was like, well, if they're listening to this right now, or if y'all are listening to this, like Grant is probably like one of your best resources. Like if you're like, oh, I need this thing for this thing, I would probably go and ask Grant, say, do you know a tool?
That's nice of you. Thank you. But yeah, I mean, that would, you could easily just go on, like I said, chat. You could even use ChatGPT to say, okay, here's my website. Go ahead and review it and build an FAQ for me. You really don't, nowadays, you really don't even have to put in that much amount of work for.
Yes. Yeah. And it's just thinking, it's that kind of thinking though that we have to retrain our, but this is where my psych set in, right? Yeah. Is we have to reprogram. Because even for me, it like, older people, before like, depending on the old person, there's some people respectfully out there who you guys are very, with the times and everything. But I know for some people, speaking from experience with the project managers that I worked with, they would get so overwhelmed and frustrated with just like the basic, like even I had to teach them to use Google Calendar. I'm not even gonna lie. And they don't care, they're just like, I don't know how to do it. Do it for me.
Yeah.
But that's so like even just you saying that, I'm like, yeah, there's so many times throughout my day where I'm trying to figure something out and it's like we have the tool in our fingertips. It doesn't mean that we don't still need our own brilliant minds and the human connection piece that we're saying, but if you can consolidate and do that like busy work that normally you would have to use your precious energy on, just freaking have that working simultaneously, and then you can work on, you personally can use your energy toward higher leverageable, tasks that can ideally help grow your company, right?
Absolutely. I mean, I bet every single one of us, me, you, everybody listening, has probably realistically 3 big ticket issues that we're trying to overcome. And, honestly, if we all just plug those into and said, help me break this down to bite-sized pieces that can fit in my task manager where it's not so burdening, we could do it,
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I've started doing something in the morning where I'll just have a conversation with ChatGPT, like if I'm making breakfast or like whatever, and it's like something is like rolling around my head, and it's like, I mean, I honestly kind of like the conversation piece. ChatGPT, I think that's really powerful. It personal preference, of course, but I think so. I've talked to some people who are like, oh, I never use the talk function, and I'm like, try it out.
Yeah. Contractors, how much time you spend in your car?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, and if it's on that level, like I mean, they're still obviously coming out with more versions, but it's definitely she or he, whatever voice you choose, they're pretty sharp.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's a pretty remarkable world that we live in nowadays. So tell me a little bit more about, so like you are definitely maximizing like the relationships and the network that you've built. How, and I think you're probably just naturally an extrovert. Like, correct me if I'm wrong on that, but
You're wrong, but it's okay.
oh, okay. So how do you so if that's not the case, how do you like prepare yourself mentally for like and physically for going to like these events and knowing that you're going to be talking to so many people, right?
Yeah, that's a good question. I've been getting a lot of questions about that recently because it's kind of funny when you develop yourself in a certain area, you don't necessarily think about it being a skill until people start asking you, and you're like, oh, okay. Like it's kind of nice to actually be asked questions. Like that is actually something had a starting point. So yeah, going back in time a little bit, truthfully, I was actually a very shy person. So I had a mentality that I developed when I was in high school where I was like, I'm just going to get extremely comfortable being uncomfortable. It was that simple. So everybody comes from their own different background in terms of their comfort with talking with other people, but I've talked to many different people of many different ages, and a lot of people are just like, I'm not like, how do you just go up to people like that? And so I actually kind of have a very specific like formula that I've personally made for myself to get even to the point where I guess I should back up a little bit. So initially, I actually, when I was still working as a server, I told myself I would go to one networking event per week, and that was simply with the purpose of getting uncomfortable. So I would just like I went to like they weren't like super high level events, so I could just reinvent myself every time until the point where I felt so comfortable introducing myself. And now I've gone to some events actually in the last week where I've had so many people come up to me and just be like, the way you speak is so amazing. Like your confidence. And that's something a little bit more that I had more women come up to me because I also am very passionate about like helping women unlock confidence. That's a whole nother podcast. But back to the networking thing is that just practice, and that's, with almost anything. But one strategy that really helped me in terms of creating like very valuable personal connections with people at networking events is I actually don't go for quantity. So my goal, any event that I go to, is always make a minimum. My goal is just 3 solid connections. And so I'm very, very observant when, say, when you step into a room, I'm already looking around at different people. I'm looking at like what people are wearing. I'm looking at people's jewelry. Say it's like a panel, I'm observing people in the audience that are watching. I'm observing maybe the panelists and like something that they said. And so I usually I kind of more, it's funny because I have a business partner that calls me the sniper. So I take more of a little bit of a sniper approach where I actually predetermine usually who I want to go and talk to. And then I have something that's like a really nice icebreaker. And it's not something like, it's not like it comes from a genuine place. It'll be like, wow, I noticed like your outfit looks amazing. And just, I mean, what's the word? Flattery goes such a long way. Like such a long way. It's such a underrated thing, especially if it's say like even in the construction world, like how do you tie this back? It's like everybody likes to feel good, right? Everybody likes compliment. Not everybody, but most people do well with compliments as long as they're intentional and genuine. And so truthfully, that's kind of my personal secret sauce that I find is that I'm just very targeted. And when I go up to somebody, I'm like, wow, it's gonna be something I overheard. I'd be like, and I go, it's not like I'm not afraid to like say something like, I happen to overhear you in a conversation over there. Like I was eavesdropping on you. And that was so interesting. I had to come up and talk to you about it. And every single time, like I have the feedback I get is that I stand out to people because of my intentionality and how I approach.
I love that. Absolutely. That is such a strong skill set to have, and just a strong like habit pattern too for go
Yes.
because there's so many times in life, whether it's a meetup or like IBS, just having that same skill set where it's like, okay, there's 100 people here versus 1,000 people. How do I make the most of this situation that I'm currently in?
Yes, totally. And people want to feel special too. So it's like for me doing that thing instead of trying to be like, oh, I'm going to talk to this person. Like, what do you do? What do you do? What do you like? Everybody's a little bit tired of that question in networking. What do you do? Right. Like, so I've kind of even mixed it up sometimes where I'm like, what are you passionate about? Or like, I try to ask things in a little bit of a different way because that also mixes up people's like normal neurological like pathways.
Yeah.
So, I mean, once you study psychology, I can't unsee the world. Like, I operate in that place. But it is a really horrible thing because, again, it's all about like how I'm not a big small talk person. So I'm like, how can we cut through the BS, for lack of a better to say it, as quickly as possible, and like let's get to some actual meat.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of this company called Story Brand, and they're a marketing agency in Texas, but they talk a lot about just the power of like a tagline, a one-liner, and like exactly what you're talking about, how to introduce yourself and ask questions that aren't just what do you do for work or where do you live or that boring stuff that people they'll answer, but it's not going to be a memorable conversation.
No, no.
So I think that's huge. That and really amazing, really incredible that you kind of put that challenge on yourself in high school or from such an early age. That's really cool.
Yeah, it served me well.
So then, one challenge that I think could present is you're going to all of these different networking events, you're meeting a lot of people. How do you manage that? They used to be like a Rolodex on your desk, right? But now like how do you remember somebody that you met a meetup at or met at a meetup versus
It's so funny. It's really funny you're asking that question. Like, can we skip on that question? I'll be fully transparent here. That's actually on my priority list I've been researching some personal CRMs. I wish I could tell you one off the top of my head that like is what I use, but I'll be honest, I don't have that at the moment. I know I have been recommended a couple, and I'm kind of again there's so many AI tools out there that it's like sorting through them sometimes is a whole thing. But if anybody opens a suggestion, maybe I don't know if there's a place to put. Yeah, it's gonna be on YouTube, so please put comments if you have any recommendations of personal CRMs. That's a personal bottleneck I have. But I honestly I have just exceptional memory when it comes to that stuff. So that's carried me that thus far. I mean, LinkedIn. This is like for some, and maybe this is helpful for somebody out there. I put in when I save somebody's contact, I do put in like some type of distinguishing, like if I met them at an event or something, I'll put, so then I can search it. That is good. And then there's one other trick that I learned actually fairly recently from somebody that is a game changer as well. On LinkedIn, after you meet somebody, send a message. I send a message right away on LinkedIn saying, "Oh, it was great meeting you." ...
Yep.
That one has been so helpful because beforehand even now I still do sometimes where I'll screenshot LinkedIn stuff because I'm like, if somebody I really want to remember, but that's not a long-term solution, right? That's why this is a bottleneck. So yeah, just being able to go back, like say you set up a meeting, then you're like, okay, I have all these contacts. Now you're meeting this person. You can go back to that person on LinkedIn, look at the messages, and then you're like, okay, I met them here, and you're able to kind of like bring you back to that moment. That's pretty powerful. But yeah, truthfully, I'm still navigating how to organize my network. Besides that, in my mind, I just am able to. I'm somebody who can draw a lot of connection. That's fine. I feel sad, but yeah.
I mean, just that alone, right? It's really powerful, the fact that you can remember, little tidbits about how you got to know somebody and potentially, who they know too.
Right. Yeah. I mean, so far so good, but I know it's only going up from here. So I'm getting to that point where, especially going into consulting and with all the different ventures I'm a part of, I'm starting to get to that point where I'm like, yeah, I need to have a better solution. Although this is kind of funny. When I was just in Hawaii for a real estate investing mastermind, and we were talking about Rolodexing, and I had somebody ask me, "Do you even know what a Rolodex looks like?" And I was like, I described it. They're like, okay, that's pretty good. And then they were like, they weren't trying to like give me a advice or anything, or they weren't trying to give me an idea, but it happened to be like a light bulb moment for me because they were like, back in the day, he said he used to take a Rolodex and with physical business cards, he would actually just like tape it or glue it on to one of the sheets on the Rolodex. And I'm sure other people still have this problem where, not everybody's digital yet. And I still have physical business cards because some people prefer that. I'm literally thinking to go buy a Rolodex and like glue because some of those, like I save every single business card, and some of them are people that like I know I will want to contact at some point. And so I'm really thinking about doing what that guy said and just like gluing the physical. We're on here supposed to be talking about AI and
wonder if you could maybe that's a good idea for like swag too, because no matter I go every single conference I go to, I probably collect minimum of like 20 business cards. Even, and these are like AI conferences, some of them.
Gotcha.
And so the swag item could be like this cool retro looking Rolodex that only holds maybe 50 cards or something. Just as like a throwback item.
That's a good idea. That's a very good idea. People would, I think, would actually love that. And imagine if you just like kind of designed it to be for business cards so that it was actually like practical in 2025.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like that idea. Is that copyrighted yet?
No, anybody could run with it. I'll just take 15%.
Okay. Sorry, we'll talk.
Yeah. Cool though. So I guess let's see. I think there's, that's probably one of the talking about like low hanging fruit. That is probably one of the best investments any contractor, anybody in construction, let alone any industry can make, is training yourself to become a better communicator in terms of, your listening skills, your ability to communicate, especially challenges, but even when things are good. Do you have any other like tips and tricks that come to mind that, are quick wins that you've picked up?
Tips and tricks to that covers to communicate. Yeah, and you could mean you're internally like in connection to any kind of piece in construction.
You're right. Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, for me, actually, yeah, I had a good one I was thinking of earlier was it's usually the simplest things I think that are the most powerful. And like, for example, whenever I talk to my boss, it's, he calls or I call, what do you need? What do you know what I mean? It's just like, right? So busy. And I had a personal rule where like, regardless of who I was talking to, I would always ask, how are you doing?
Nice.
And that was so powerful. Like the connections that I made with our vendors, like, so quick side note, logistics manager, typically they're in commercial. I was in residential. So this position was created, at least in the company I was working for, in residential, and they were trying to actually help other construction companies integrate having a logistics manager. I know it was very successful because when I came into the company versus when I left, the company was in a much more organized and it was in a better state, right? So my domain was kind of like client communication, like I was saying, the daily logs earlier, materials, scheduling. So I helped with sub-scheduling as well as our internal weekly schedules. So just so people have a little context. But yeah, so I basically took on a lot of our like vendor communication, and like I had such close relationships with these people in a very short amount of time because it's not common for people to ask how you're doing in the construction industry. And that's like, again, just a simple thing, but it goes a long way. And just like even the guys, like I had such close friendships, and like, we genuinely cared about each other in terms of our staff. Like if they were having a rough day and they weren't feeling well, like I was the person that they felt comfortable coming to talk to, because like I knew pretty much more than anybody in the company about what was going on with, like, my boss could come to me and I had intel regarding, individual relationships outside of work, personal, vendors, what was going on between this company. And that's just part of when you really care genuinely, but also when it's a combination of what we're kind of talking about. You have the networking piece. So I'm out in the community actually with people having these conversations. You can't fake that work. But then also having, like, when I ask somebody, how are you doing? It's not small talk, but there's two different ways. You can be like, how are you? Like, and then there's a how are you? And even just taking one, for me, it's never a waste of time to spend 1 minute checking in. So that's just right off the top of my head. That's a really powerful one in terms of relationships. And it opens up a lot of doors to, yeah, again, those deepening relationships is what people remember. Can people remember how you feel, not what you do?
Right. Exactly right. Do you use, just on the topic of like gas, or what I consider gas, which is like giving a shit, do you use like handwritten notes at all, or have you in the past?
Like, you mean at the end of a project or something? Or
Yeah. Or just, like talking about going to a conference if you had a really strong connection with somebody there. Just sending him a note just saying, hey, I had such a good time getting to know you at such and such.
I'm a big fan of that stuff. I didn't personally do that. I actually redesigned my business card recently, and I actually left the backside blank with just a tiny little logo with the intention to be able to write handwritten notes. So you say that I want to start doing that. This is something that I tried to propose to my ex-employer to integrate. It didn't end up going through. But what I wanted to do was like kind of end of project care packages for each client. Oh, I don't know, it included like a book that was kind of about like house key for like, not house, that's not what I would say, but it was a book about being able, like how to maintain a great house in terms of once you have constructed projects, how can you, mitigate different larger issues by addressing them sooner, like that type of. And then I was also thinking like a handwritten note, it can be flower, whatever it is, like a little basket. Kind of like what people do, like real estate agents do. But you have to see that in construction.
Another idea that came to mind, and I love that idea, the care package. I think that is such it takes a lot of work, obviously, but the impact that you're going to make with that. I remember, just side tangent story. One of my friends, they bought a $1.8 million house in the Bay Area in California. And the real estate agent gave them one like piece of craft knife that was branded with her logo.
Oh gosh.
And it's still so upsetting to me. Like, her commission on that is insane. And all you get is this like kitchen knife.
Like, it's almost like kind of worse than.
It is. Yeah. But the care package idea, I think it's, when done right, it can really leave a lasting impact. A positive one. I'll say a positive one. And I was just thinking that book idea that you had, since, the design builder or the home builder that you were working with, since they knew the ins and outs of that home, it would be cool if you guys used all of your details from the project and actually had AI write the book about their own home.
You just took that to another level.
That's incredible. Yeah. Because then, I mean, imagine honestly, I can imagine somebody like a homeowner like crying, getting.
Totally. Yeah.
Especially like we did a lot of historical homes. So these were like, we happen to have like very personal, like deep emotional ties, to their homes.
Yeah.
Wow. That's actually a really powerful idea. I'm taking.
Yeah. You can have both of those ideas.
Maybe you shouldn't. Well, I guess you do work in marketing, so that way.
Yeah.
That adds up.
Well, this has been really quite an awesome conversation. But for those listening who, either want to, I don't know if you do coaching for conversations or, meetups.
Yeah. No, I love. I mean, if it's not obvious through this call, I love connecting with people, and I'm recently transitioned out of a full-time career in construction, but I'm passionate about helping construction companies scale. So either it's just a conversation and I can offer little bits of advice, or I have availability as well if people are.
Yeah. What's the best way for somebody to get in contact with you?
It's honestly going to be my Instagram, LinkedIn, or my phone number. I'm one of those people that I don't like email.
I think that's most people. I think most people just kind of deal with it.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Yeah. I didn't know if it was just me, but yeah, I think honestly too, if you don't mind, if I just like summarize really quickly what we talked about, the thing that I think that from my observation of the industry, especially for companies that are maybe you could even be like, 1,500,000 to 2.5, let's just say, for annual revenue. It can get so stressful in the day-to-day operations and admin work. Like, it just, it tacks on it adds up, right, in the day-to-day. And it can feel like, why would I focus on thinking about communication relationships that I need to order this thing and I did, but it's like any little amount of time that you can set aside, even if it's on the weekend, right, if it's your own business or you're really passionate, like to think about those, what do your communication systems look like internally? Because it starts internally and then it's going to trickle out, right? Whatever your team looks like, that has to be very solid in terms of the culture that you create within the company. I talk a lot about, I wouldn't say I'm a founder, co-founder of a business development agency. So we help not only construction companies, but we're helping, all different kinds of different companies. And we talk a lot, we preach a lot about culture, just because if your internal staff are not happy, that energy is felt by people external. So cleaning your, it's like that whole saying, like, what is it? Clean your house before you clean others. I don't know. I probably just like kept saying, I got to made that up, but it applies. And so, yeah, that's what I just want to emphasize, that for me, construction is not historically, I would say, like, talked about as a big, like, it's just like, oh, you're building stuff. But no, to me, start with cleaning up your communication systems internally. There's so many, again, tools out there, or even just like organizing group chats, or making sure that there is those, like, do your staff know who's communicating to who, or, it's these little questions that you need to ask. And again, we have ChatGPT to, like, you can walk through a conversation to do that internal analysis, right? You don't even need maybe you don't need me, right? Go use the tools out there first, and then if you need a human, go to a human. But yeah, so I think I just want to emphasize that like, that to me, have my experience so far in the construction industry is that relationships and communications are the baseline, and then from there you fill in, you figure out what the gaps are, and that's where you plug in the tools, and then you start building that really solid foundation where you can start hiring the right people to build and scale.
That's right. Absolutely. Yeah. Just, taking a diagnostic or an assessment and seeing where your gaps are. I think most people don't even understand where their communication gaps are internally. And so, having somebody like you as a third party that can come in and, quickly chat with everybody, get an understanding of the business, and then be able to pinpoint exactly what the issue is and how to overcome that. Huge wins.
Yeah, you would know too.
Yeah,
and like we're two people that are probably like fantastic candidates for doing that. But there's plenty of work for all of us.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, this was super fun.
Yeah.
Really appreciate you coming on, Chloe. And yeah, looking forward to chatting again soon.
Likewise, I actually have some people I want to connect you to.
Oh, good deal. Yeah, right on point.
But yeah, but
yeah, let's do it.
Sounds
and good. Enjoy the rest of your day.
You as well. Thanks for the talk.
Absolutely. Bye.
See you. Bye.
Look, my entire mission with this series is to see talented builders and business owners stop getting run over by operational chaos and to actually start building the business they deserve. If this episode gave you even one tool or 1% of a tool to fight back, please share it with a fellow builder. Help me spread the word. That is all I ask. So make sure you subscribe so you're ready for the next one. Until then, systems scale your success.